Hello there, my name is Sixo, but more on that later because we're talking Studio Series 86 Constructicons, starting today with Bonecrusher. Now, I'm really interested to see how this guy shapes up in terms of design, build quality, and of course transformation, especially as I'm a major fan of the Unite Warriors set from 10 years ago, so it's going to be intriguing seeing this updated attempt come together as we build the combined mode in the coming months. Can it compete? I guess we'll see. It's also a bit of a weird one because the older toys in this case are already highly accurate to the 1986 film, on which the new set is also heavily based. So we'll be sure to do plenty of comparisons along the way and determine which is ultimately the best. Final thing before we begin, this review is brought to you by Transforverse.eu, a European Transformers site specialising in the robots in disguise with tons of stuff available in stock and up for pre-order right now. I'll include a link to their site in the description below, and of course if you live in Europe you should absolutely go and check them out right now. Kicking this off today, we're going to look at the vehicle mode, and by and large this looks basically as I would have expected it might. I mean, it's definitely Bonecrusher. I mean, he is a little bit of a box and a pair of treads, but again, that's kind of what you want from the character, really. If anything, it is quite accurate to the screen. There is something ever so slightly underwhelming about this mode by my estimation. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the fact that there's no wheels, so it doesn't roll. It just kind of scuffs on a table, which is really strange. And again, it's just very boxy and nondescript. I kind of can't get over it. I have also noticed on my copy that several sections kind of don't tab in as flush as I wish they would. Try as I might, I can't get it to stay, and I have transformed it back and forth a couple of times to try and remedy that, but no dice. It is pretty clean though, and it tidies up quite nicely. I mean, there's no real kibble or anything going on, so overall, looks pretty decent. Now, unlike the Unite Warriors one, this has the more traditional and kind of cartoon accurate hood just here, and obviously there should be a little kind of cockpit section or something just here for a driver to sit, but no, that's his head just in the way there, so I don't know how anybody's actually supposed to drive this thing, but hey ho, what can you do? Nice little bit of molded detail on the side there, that looks cool. Not much in the way of paint or anything going on here, so it is all quite uniformly green, but still the molded details are nice. There's a little bit of silver here just inside the tank treads, so that's something, but the treads themselves are entirely green, but that is cartoon accurate, so what are you gonna do? You'd also have a little bit of purple just at the front here, and a little silver-backed Decepticon logo, which doesn't feel very anime styled actually. It's more of a toy styled Decepticon logo if anything, but it works. So I guess overall it does what it needs to, what it says on the tin or whatever, but there's nothing really hugely remarkable about it either. It's just kind of there. It's like, it looks like it's roughly supposed to. Again, it doesn't roll or anything like this, so play value is maybe a little bit limited, but it's fine, it does the job. Now it does have his little handgun, which you can peg on the top there, should you wish. And there you go, he's gone from construction to destruction. Now in terms of comparisons, first I want to talk about this thing versus the animation model, because it's when you line them up side by side that you can see that it's absolutely not one-to-one in the way that we would maybe expect from like a masterpiece release, but this is clearly very cartoon styled, even though it's not so slavish that everything is completely accurate. It is also distinctly less stylized and more accurate to the screen than the Unite Warriors attempt, which took a few liberties with like the closed canopy and a few other details, which actually does mean that this new version is maybe a little bit more what we might expect. But the one thing I do really want to address here is the colour, because it's such a stark difference in hand. The Unite Warriors set is so much more saturated by comparison and actually looks a little bit off colour if anything. In truth, I'm not sure that either of them is 100% accurate to the screen in terms of colour anyway, but I think probably the Studio Series just edges it a little bit in that regard. And of course it doesn't have some of the embellishments like the purple on the treads and things like this, so there's no doubt that it's more accurate overall. What is strange to see is that actually the Studio Series colour is almost a dead ringer for the original G1 toy, so I do wonder if maybe that was some of the consideration as well, but these two definitely line up pretty closely in terms of palette to my eye. Fair to say though, this thing will always have a special place in my heart. There's just a charm to this original toy that any kind of modern redo is going to struggle to compete with in a way. Like, I know it's super simple, but just adorable. In any case, here's a comparison with some other modern toys, and of course these are the Legacy Stunticons, and no, this is not real world scale in any way, shape or form, but what are you gonna do, eh? That's just Transformers. In any case, let's get this guy transformed up. Now firstly, you just want to move this little shovel piece out like so, and then just move the legs out, just untab them from the sides and move them down like that. Same thing over here, just fold that down. Of course, this also reveals this black piece, which will be the combined mode forearm. We don't have the hand for it just yet. You can then flick out his little feet, Same on the other side. This one's a little bit stiff actually, but it will go. Then you want to fold this whole middle bit kind of back like so, and then that enables you to get the arms out here. A little bit tight, but there you go. It's exactly the same on the other side. That just kind of folds up and over into place. And then you want to get his head, which of course is painted green on the back, but just fold that up and around. And then you can concertina this whole body section together. This little bit here just goes in the tab slot provided, so that just kind of collapses up. And then this arm piece just folds down kind of as a backpack like so, and then just move the canopy back as well. You can then fold the arms out. They're just kind of on two joints just there, and then fold the forearm round. Exactly the same on this side, just out, down and round. And we're not quite done because that looks a bit wrong at the moment, but you just want to fold that tab into this little slot just there. So kind of fold that whole shovel bit up. It's not the best connection in the world, but it will go. And then just fold that bit up onto the chest like so. And I'm not gonna lie, there's something quite awkwardly adorable about that finished robot mode, right? Like it looks basically as it should, and yet there's something about the kind of proportions and presentation on offer here that is just, I don't know, it kind of looks like a little kid in a big green jumpsuit somehow. I don't know, with the full green shell suit and the big visor specs, it's very much like what teenagers thought looked cool back in the 1990s, you know? And to be fair, I think those proportions are pretty much going to be the thing that a lot of people will talk about with this toy, because it is a little bit of an awkward duck. First things first, I do kind of like how they've interpreted the head sculpt, because although yes, again, it looks a little bit weird, it's actually pretty cartoon accurate, you know, complete with that kind of strange chin and everything else. So, and he does look suitably grumpy, which really kind of recalls the character. Fairly nice finish going on here underneath the shovel piece with this red paint and the little purple bits as well. That's quite small and very nicely applied. And again, another little silverback Decepticon logo, and you will find a little splodge of purple for the molded hands here as well. That is kind of it as far as paint and finish goes though. I mean, again, it does kind of lack a little bit of something in terms of the finish. It's one of those where accuracy doesn't always mean the most visually appealing result, I think. The other thing is the stuff like this on the midriff, which just kind of sits there and makes him look very pot-bellied, like you can't get away from that sort of visual compromise in a way. And it does mean that there's no real waist swivel as well if you have that tabbed in. The only real solution is to kind of untab this whole thing, and even if you do that, it swivels in a very awkward way because this goes with it, so it's a definite compromise. Now, articulation wise, there's a few oddities as well. I mean, firstly, with the head, it moves very nicely from side to side. It can look up thanks to transformation, and not really down because of course this whole kind of wedge piece is just there. Shoulders are slightly strange because they actually have this hinge down for transformation, and that doesn't tab in at all. I kind of feel like it should. I don't know why they didn't do that. Maybe they didn't want a tab on the outside there, but it is a little bit strange. But other than that, of course, you've got a ball jointed shoulder, so it will go all the way up and over, and it will come out as well. Now, in a strange twist, you've also got ball jointed elbows, which isn't something I anticipated seeing here, but of course that does mean you've got fairly free motion in those elbows, just like that, but then nothing at all in the hands. Those are just fixed. We've already talked about the weird waist swivel, but you do have plenty going on in the hips, which will go all the way up like so. I mean, that looks pretty uncomfortable, but it can be done. Alternatively, those come all the way out to the side. There is then a bit of thigh rotation thanks to that mushroom peg, and the knees are a little bit of a strange one as well, because they will bend, but man, that's a serious clunk to that knee, right? Like, it absolutely clicks into place quite solidly. Not too keen on the ankle tilt though, because although it will go quite far, which is really, really good, I mean, that's a very impressive ankle tilt. Again, it's sort of, you either get it to that angle or it's closed again. It kind of snaps into place. So there's really no nuance there. You either have him at like a ridiculous A stance, like a Tory power pose, or, you know, you've got him completely flat-footed. It's there's nothing in between. But there is toe articulation and a bit of something in the heels as well. As a final point, there is this really weird kind of ab crunch that you can do thanks to transformation, but again, it's sort of completely useless because of this shovel bit. So I don't think it's intended, but I guess it's something you could do. It just then blocks his face a little bit. But of course, when posing, you can also just peg his blaster into his hand quite nicely, and it does all kind of mean that it's actually slightly difficult to pose him in any way that looks comfortable and natural and not like he's got really short legs or is wearing a nappy or something. Like, it kind of works, but not really at the same time. I do find it a little bit awkward. Also, some slightly strange stuff like these little holes on the front of his right shin. It's not on the other one, just this one. I'm guessing that's something for combined mode. I mean, feel free to at me if I've got that wrong, but it's not a big problem by any means, but it's there. Like, this whole backpack section feels a little bit visually unwieldy as well. I mean, it's tidy enough, I guess, and sort of sits fairly flush against the back of the body, but there's also this canopy bit that kind of sticks out a little bit too high for my liking. So again, it's not bad, and I do kind of like him overall. There's just that slight feeling of I don't know, awkwardness that I just can't get away from somehow, like something's not quite hitting it for me. And again, maybe I'm being a little bit unfair here, because it's not like I'm looking for something that is, exactly one-to-one, uber slavishly so cartoon accurate to a fault. I don't think that always makes a great toy either, but there's just a few visual compromises here for me that it doesn't quite come together in maybe the way that I would like. That said, it's a really interesting comparison versus the Unite Warriors version, because that is obviously so much bigger, It also does have some compromises along the way as well, and honestly, again, I love that toy so much, but I can still acknowledge its flaws. I definitely think the major advantage of the Unite Warriors is that crotch area, because it's just so much more unimpeded. It doesn't have the arms of the shovel just kind of sitting there and making it all look a bit bulbous. And otherwise, I have to say this comparison is actually making me feel quite favourable to the Studio Series, if anything. What's your take though? As far as round one of the Constructicons goes, which Bonecrusher do you prefer? Is it the Studio Series on the left or Unite Warriors on the right? Be sure to let me know in the comments. Equally, maybe it's a moot point, because of course nothing can compare with the adorableness of the G1 original. It's one of the only G1 toys I can think of right now that requires you to put a sticker over a sticker, and that's just so bizarre. Alternatively, here you've got some more modern fare with some recent G1 style combiners, including the aerial bots and the Constructicons, and I do think that all of this is shaping up really nicely overall. And I think really that's my overall conclusion with Bonecrusher all told, to be honest. It's definitely not a perfect figure, it's absolutely got some quibbles baked right in, which you can see, but I kind of got a good vibe about this overall set, and I feel like once we get all the Constructicons lined up, it'll sort of come good, they'll look really good together, and I think the combine mode, from what we've seen of it, looks pretty spectacular. So for today, yes, there are some bits to nitpick, but it's still, on the whole, a toot. Now, as already mentioned, this review is kindly brought to you by Transforverse.eu, a European Transformers site loaded with robots in disguise, available for pre-order and in stock right now, so you'll find a link to their site in the description below, and if you live in Europe, you should absolutely go and give them a look. I'd also be very grateful if you could hit that like button for today's effort, please, and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. But otherwise, that's it from me, so have a great rest of your day, and TTFN.